Jimmy tied the string to Noogie's finger and he started walking into the woods. Well, the woods was very dark and the trees were large, and even though it wasn't a very big woods, it seemed somehow so strange. There wasn't really any light that came into the woods, and there were big roots and lots of hemlock trees. And as Jimmy walked into the woods,
I've been working on a novel for a number of years, and this started back when my kids were little, and the oldest were little, and I started reading bedtime stories to them. Instead of reading them bedtime stories, I started making up my own bedtime stories. I started telling the story of Jimmy Wiggle, little boy, is 10 years old, that every story starts out exactly the same. One day Jimmy Wiggle came home from school. It was
a day like any other day, but somehow different. Jimmy stepped off the bus. First thing that happened, he got shoved in the back, then he got hip checked.
And from there, Jimmy would walk out into his backyard, and eventually he would go into the woods behind his house.
And out from behind the tree stepped a wolf, a standing wolf, dressed in a dinner jacket. And he stepped forward into the clearing and he said, "Allow me to introduce myself. I am Professor Wolfman." And with that, he took a very low bow and swept his ears across the forest floor.
The kids loved the stories, and they were very popular, and they would beg for me to tell them Jimmy Wiggle stories every night, and I did that for a number of years, and then I finally thought, you know what, I really should work on writing this down. So I started writing the story down, and then my computer broke down, and I thought I had lost all those years' work, and about 10 months ago, I was able to extract the files off that old computer and started working on it again.
So Jimmy undid the bow, and he, bit by bit, opened the wrapping, tore it off, and he tore everything off, and he looked, and before his eyes, he couldn't believe it. It was a pair of goggle rays. Jimmy said, "Goggle rays! X-ray vision for a spaceatronic sight!" And he ripped open the box and he put them on his head and he went tearing around the house 13 times, screaming and screaming, "Goggle rays! X-ray vision for a spaceatronic sight!"
And I've really been very reinvigorated about it because I think it's a good story.